Welcome back to the Saints Insider Podcast. It is Week 13, Saints at Miami Dolphins. I'm Luke Johnson here with Matthew Paris and Jeff Duncan to break down this matchup between two kind of bad teams.
Monumental matchup.
Yeah, it'll be fun anyways. Look, we are recording this early this week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. We all wanted some time to spend with our families, so you're going to have to deal with us wearing the exact same outfits we wore for Wednesday's show. Promise we do have more clothes. This is we're just recording two on the same day. Reminder that Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Bank Plus, from small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology. Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. New deposit customers can reach out today to learn more about incredible rate specials. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Fellas, okay, we've got the 2-9 Saints versus the Dolphins, who I think have 4 wins?
Yes.
4 wins. Dolphins have won 3 out of their last 4. They endured a really, really rough stretch at the start of the season, fired their GM. Head coach has kind of been squarely on the hot seat until this recent hot stretch. Saints obviously are coming off a loss against the Atlanta Falcons last week in Week 12. And the Dolphins, the last time they were out, they beat the Washington Commanders in Spain. So we're going to dive into this matchup. We'll talk about when the Saints had the ball. We'll talk about when the Dolphins had the ball. We'll talk about special teams, which is suddenly even more relevant than it has been for a Saints team that has struggled in that all season. We'll give our keys to the game, predictions, all that good stuff. Jeff, you got any good recommendations for Miami?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody always goes to, Joe Stone Crab, but I would definitely get some more like Cuban food. Something like that.
I'm going to get some croquetas this weekend, I think.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, you guys are going to have a blast down there. It's awesome. And Rod pointed out, right, that team hasn't been down there since
the Super Bowl season. Yeah, literally the Super Bowl was the last time they played in that stadium.
Yeah, so I distinctly remember one of the greatest comebacks in franchise history at that game. That's the game I knew something special was going on.
You're talking about the regular season
game. The regular season game, because they were down like 24-3. It was one of those games where like they had an emotional win the week before, easy letdown game, and you could just say, all right, this is one of those games you're going to lose. And they came back and won defensive touchdowns, all kinds of craziness. And I was like, man, they would never have won this game any other year. So
they were rubbing it in Miami's face for not signing Drew Brees that game.
Yeah, it was a crazy game. You guys have a blast. It's also kind of an interesting. I've always felt like that stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, the way they do it with the roof, would be ideal here somehow. If we had some kind of half-covered stadium or something here, it's as opposed to the dome. I'm proposing it for the next stadium down the road.
I disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You don't like the
stadium's fine.
Half in, half out. What about like
fine.
the Houston thing where they can open and close?
Yeah. Hard pass.
Okay.
I don't think you want to mess around with that. So like I know Miami is
so
doing
hot
it where it is, but like I don't think you want to mess around with that sort of stuff during like hurricane season.
Oh, I mean, they get hurricanes down there,
I know. That's what I just said.
Yeah. I don't know, but anyway, food-wise, I do have a good spot, but we'll talk about that another time.
No free ads.
All right. Matt, what's your kind of vibe check going into this game? Obviously, Saints. Look, it took like 2 hours for all that like positive momentum, goodwill to just like evaporate Sunday, and then the next day they're working out Justin Tucker, and all of a sudden everybody hates the Saints again. So what's your vibe check on this?
I mean, this is a winnable game for them. Miami hasn't lit the world on fire. They are playing better. I still kind of like the momentum that Miami is carrying into this game. Sometimes that changes, as we saw with the Saints last week, but it seems like they're getting some of their stuff together. They haven't quit on McDaniel, which I think is pretty important for them, and so we'll get to it later, but I would still, the Dolphins are favored in this one, rightfully so, and I just think the thing I'm watching for the Saints this week is, can their offense get back on track at all? Like, is the red zone any better? Can they sustain drives? They were on the field for 80 plays. It just felt so much of those, 80 snaps were just, kind of a waste. I didn't really feel like they were productive or efficient on many of them. And so, I just want to see kind of a better rhythm from these guys this time out.
Yeah, they had like a 15-play drive that gained 40 yards. It's
15 play, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Dolphins are favored by 6 points in this game. As you can see on your screen, the over-under total for this is 41.5, which, yuck. I think the Saints have a chance to get some positive momentum back on their side. They do have 6 games left in this season. We did see a much better team go out against the Carolina Panthers, and they obviously fell flat on their face last week. But some winnable games down the stretch, this is one of them. So we'll get into the whole matchup. We'll talk about some of the key areas in this game for maybe the Saints to bounce back. But first, we're going to take a quick break.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Caesar. Like, we're going to sit here and we're going to tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favourite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Can you reach that? How about you get it?
Welcome back into the Saints Insider Podcast. Once again, I am Luke Johnson, joined today by Matthew Paris and Jeff Duncan. We are breaking down the Saints' Week 13 matchup against the Miami Dolphins. We are going to start with when the Saints have the ball, because we didn't see enough of that last week against the Atlanta Falcons. As Matt mentioned, I think it was 78 plays against the Falcons. They scored 3 offensive points out of that. 3 trips inside the red zone, 2 trips inside the 1-yard line, 3 points. Not a great showing for the Saints offense. Though, Dunk, you did mention after the game that you thought they had their quarterback.
Yeah.
You thought Tyler Shough played pretty well despite the general offensive ineptitude from them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you can see what the Saints like in him, but there's just so many problems everywhere else, right? The interior offensive line we mentioned before. It's just hard to get any kind of rhythm. And then there's just they're in that cycle of a bad unit where one guy's messing up from play to play. You know, Devon Vele holds on a play, and then next thing you know, they just don't have the ability to overcome those kind of things. So if they could just kind of get back to some semblance of consistency like they had in that, I thought they had a good rhythm and a good balance in Carolina game. They all went out the window. They couldn't run the ball again against Atlanta, and they had some trouble in protection. Atlanta does have a good pass rush, and they'll face, there's some dudes on Miami can rush. I mean, they can get after you in the pass rush, so they got to protect better because this is the same problem we saw with even Spencer Rattlers. There's some plays where there's just no chance to even get through your progression. There's pressure on you, and Miami definitely is vulnerable on the back end, so Shough should have some opportunities, especially with Olave. But I thought Atlanta did a good job. Once Olave started having some success, they started bracketing him, which is what we're going to see, and kind of took him out of the game. I mean, he became a non-factor in the second half, and I would be shocked if Miami doesn't try to do something similar to that and then see if Shough can beat him with his second and third options, which aren't that dangerous right now.
So we're going to do the thing that we always do on the show and say the Saints have to run the ball. Miami's coming into this with the number 25 overall defense in terms of total yardage, number 29 run defense. They have not been very good against that, but we're talking about the movable object versus the stoppable force here. The Saints are the number 29 rushing offense, number 26 total offense, so pretty evenly matched there in terms of 2 bad units. To your point, the Dolphins, I think, ranked 12th in the NFL in pass defense. A lot of that is probably because of that front, their pass rushers on the front, although they did trade Jalen Phillips to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think Bradley Chubb is probably their best rush end. But look, I mean, we've said it over and over again. When the Saints offense is operating at the way they want it to operate, they're running the football, but we're looking at probably Devin Neal leading the rushing attack, probably Audric Estime sliding into the Devin Neal role. Who knows if Evan Hull will have a role? I mean, we're all pretty much assuming on we're recording this early in the week, that Alvin Kamara is not going to be playing in this game. So, I mean, can they actually get that going? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to just get chunk plays that's kind of what's been missing too. I mean, where's Juwan Johnson been a little bit? I mean, he's had a nice season. It just feels of late.
He was okay in the Carolina game. He was, that was probably his career best game, but last week it was.
I guess last week, yeah. I just think you need to make life as easy as you can for Shough, and I think Juwan Johnson actually, they have good chemistry dating back to their time in college together. You just need to make things simpler for. This is the part of now being 11 games into the season. I just don't know how many more solutions Kellen Moore has, because I think he's tried a lot and they just haven't found that identity.
I am really interested to see what Devin Neal looks like in a feature role against a run defense that has had some issues this year. But again, it's not rushing offense is not a one man game.
Right.
They need their offensive front to play better.
And Estime is a guy I'm sure is going to get some reps. But, I mean, I watched him a lot in Denver. He's not an explosive back. I mean, that's not his game. He's kind of a power back. He runs hard, but there's no, explosiveness to his game. So he probably fills some of that role in short yardage a little bit. But I haven't seen, frankly, a big burst from Neal either. I mean, it feels like that's not – something he brings either. I mean, that was Kendre Miller. That was what he brought to the running back position here. And without him, and I know on our last episode, we didn't really mention his future in New Orleans when we talked about Alvin Kamara's, but he was the guy drafted to be the next guy. And I think running back has got to be addressed in this offseason coming up, because I'm not sure they have the answer right now on the roster because of Kendre Miller's, lack of availability. And in this game in particular, I don't know how they do it, because I think they've tried with Taysom Hill. Looks like he's lost, that burst that he had. They just don't have it in the running game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And really, when you think about it, it's. I mean, ever since they drafted Alvin Kamara, right back in 2017, they've had a lot of whiffs at running back.
Yep.
Latavius Murray, I thought was a pretty good addition for him. He was a good compliment to Alvin Kamara, but outside of that, it's just seems like everybody they brought in, they haven't really found any success with. Jamal Williams, Kendre Miller getting hurt.
And I would say this. I mean, I think I was mentioning it to Matt the other day. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting a few reps in Kansas City. Cam Akers is getting reps in Minnesota. It shows you, I mean, there's a little bit of a lack of really good running backs, I think, because it shows you these guys are getting – and I didn't see anything from either one of those guys when they were here either. So I think they've got to draft one, get a guy and – build around him. Jeremiah Love would look pretty good on this team.
He would. Unfortunately, so would a lot of other guys. Other guys.
That's true. But I mean, I think
right now, I think the Saints have the number 4 overall draft pick. If they use that on a running back,
I would do it for that guy. That's the guy I would do it. But they just need some playmaking.
Congrats, you've just been fired as GM of the Saints.
I'm telling you, man, they need a weapon on offense.
Yeah.
Some kind of playmaker, and he would be that guy. But that's a long way off.
I think obviously coming off of last week, and this has been a season-long problem. The red zone issues have just at this point that probably just is who they are. But the play calling definitely needs to be taken under a microscope here. Look at they ran 13 plays inside Atlanta's 20-yard line last week. Every single one of those 13 ended with the ball in Tyler Shough's hands or Taysom Hill's hands. And I think Shough only had 2 true dropbacks in that entire 13-play sequence. Both of them ended in sacks. So I've been the biggest Taysom Hill guy on this show. Probably not in real life. That's probably you. Mm-hmm. But I think that package just needs to be put on the shelf for a minute until you really know that Taysom is back to being the guy he was, if that ever happens again. And I think you need to just kind of evaluate what you're doing down there with a really critical eye, because it is just not working.
Yeah, and I thought his answer to that after the game was pretty enlightening. He was saying basically, hey, I got in here kind of mid-season, new coaching staff, so they're trying to figure out this guy flopped in.
Their first time repping the Taysom Hill plays was in week 5.
Yeah, so I get it. It's like that's something that should have been done in camp, but he wasn't available, and we're seeing it act out in real life here, and it's just not working. And I'm a big believer in not going to shotgun, but that's how they run that play. That's how they run that package is Taysom Hill, QB power out of shotgun. But when you're on the 1 foot line, man, just get a touchdown. It's not that hard. And they made it look very hard. And I did hear that Kellen Moore apologized to the team in the team meeting this week for the 4th down call that was to Taysom Hill's pass that got batted down. He apologized, said that's on me. That was not a good call. And I would agree. I didn't think it wasn't really open anyway.
But even if it didn't get batted down, there was nobody there.
It was not going to be open. They were ready for that package. They've just got to, and look, I feel for Kellen Moore because there's just not a lot of options down there. But look, man, they traded for Devon Vele in some ways. I'm starting to wonder about that now. I mean, I'm not. Maybe I'm late to the game, but
yes,
that's late to the game on that. But I mean, they're not getting much out of that at all for that trade. But they've got to find something in the red zone. It looked like to me Kellen Moore was saying, we've got to run the ball. That's how we're going to score. And he was just pounding his head against the wall there trying to make it work. And it just wasn't working.
Yeah, John's, is it Siegler?
Siegler,
from USA Today's network. Saints have run 32 plays in the red zone since naming Tyler Shough their starting quarterback. Only 7 passing attempts.
So, there is some nuance to that, though, because it's 7 pass attempts, but he's been sacked a number of times, and even within the stat I brought up, where he had 2 true dropbacks, he had multiple plays that were run pass runs.
Right.
So it's okay. It's a read option at the line, and then if you pull it, then you roll out and you either have a pass option or a run option for the quarterback. And there was one that he had the pass option, saw it was covered up, so he took it himself. I think he was tackled at the 2-yard line. So there are more plays there than the raw stats suggest. But it's still it was 2-dimensional, and a lot of it was quarterback runs. I know that there's a numbers advantage there, but when it's just not working, you can't keep going back to the well. I think that's my main issue.
Do we know, have you all looked up, and this is something we probably should know, but what I assume Kellen Moore's numbers in the red zone were much better before he got here.
Well, definitely with Philly.
Because he had, the tush push.
Right.
But I'm just wondering if this is an area where we've said a few times, he's going through growing pains as a head coach and a play caller. He doesn't have a lot to work with. The interior line would be a great point. I mean, if they had Eric McCoy out there, maybe they can score on these, these little short yardage situations. So taking that into account, but there's also, I remember Peyton saying, if you want to.
I sure do.
Yeah, because he was a big believer in the red zone. It's a big, you got to scheme a lot of these scores.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen Andy Reid do it for years in Kansas City, where you see guys scoring standing up. Peyton used to be so proud of that. And he would, that's Peyton, right? He's got an ego. He's like, my son could have scored on that. But he schemed it up to where his son could have scored on it, right? We haven't seen that yet, right? We haven't seen anything easy. So at some point, in spite of the lack of personnel and the injuries and all that, you also have to say the play calling hasn't been that creative, because I've seen many times where Andy Reid will have, we saw it in the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl against the Eagles, where they found a weakness in John Gannon's scheme, and they were scoring standing up. That's got to be something he's got to get down either in the offseason or at some point in this season, because we just haven't seen it.
I definitely feel that way for the scripted plays to begin the game. Mm-hmm. I haven't looked up the red zone like you had mentioned, but I did look up Kellen Moore's track record of beginning the game, with those first 15 plays, the opening drives. Even Philly last year, I think they had only scored 3 opening drive touchdowns in 17 games. They were not very efficient there. And he doesn't have a good track record with that either. It's not. I think what Kellen Moore does well as a play caller is the plays themselves that they do get open, and I feel like he leans into players' strengths, but situational, for so much situational stuff he emphasizes, I feel like that isn't necessarily the flow within the game, I think sometimes is kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've gotten off here on this track but I mean, I think it's a huge issue for the team right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're going to get much of it fixed right now. They're down so much in personnel, and Kellen Moore and his offensive staff only have so much to work with. But it's just been not good enough in the red zone in particular. And it'll be interesting to see this week when they get down there if they have, I know he's leaned into that tempo a lot. And I mean, Breeze talked about it in the broadcast. Like, this is something that they emphasized in those production meetings to him. And sometimes I feel like it is an advantage for the Saints, but other times I feel like it's leading to a lot of the problems they have.
Yeah.
Where they've had like some issues getting lined up. Or
No, it's definitely early in the year.
The Von Bailey hold that you were referencing came right after they went
Right.
no huddle after a first down. I think a lot of issues for the Saints offensively this year. I still think Kellen Moore has it in him. I believe in the track record. I do think that they're not as talented on that side of the ball as maybe we thought coming into the year. So I still think it's too early to bail on him there. Still believe there's chances for. I don't know if y'all feel the same way, but
it's too early.
Definitely something that they are going to have to take a long look at this offseason. Okay, let's transition to when the Dolphins have the ball. A couple things I want to bring up here. I think there's one thing that works in the Saints' favor and one thing that doesn't. Thing one, the Dolphins are tied for fourth in the NFL for fourth most giveaways this year. They've been kind of loose with the football, 17 turnovers this season for them. And that's an area where we have seen the Saints capable of taking advantage of that stuff. We saw it last week with the Justin Reed interception. Saw it in the Giants game with the 5 turnovers they forced, although the Giants had some part to play in that. So that's an area where they could potentially take advantage of this team. But look, Devon Achane is really on a heater for this Dolphins team. Last 4 games, at least in the 3 wins, so 3 out of their last 4 they've won. In the wins, it was 141 yards, 197 yards, and 169 yards. Overall, in their last 4 games, 148.5 yards per game on the ground. So I think that's, again, this is like something that we've said a lot on the show, and we've talked about the Saints' kind of Jekyll and Hyde run defense. It was actually pretty good last week, despite a few big plays from Bijan Robinson. I think they're both Robinson and Tyler Algier had like a sub 30% success rate on their runs, which is well below their season average. But I mean, it's going to be important for this side of the ball to just be on its game again this week. I think Miami's probably gettable in the other areas.
Well, look, I think 2 concerns I have. Well, the biggest one is Miami's whole offense is built for speed. I mean, that's what Mike McDaniel came in there with. Now, I know they lost Tyreek Hill, but they're still, fast in every perimeter position for the most part. And that's not where the Saints are good at. I mean, the Saints defense they're good. They're still kind of a bruiser defense. They can stop the run with numbers and Staley, but they don't have speed on the perimeter at all. And I think that's a huge weakness. And that we saw that last week where Bijan Robinson had success was when he got out of the perimeter in the passing game and they got exposed. And that's something we've talked about. That's the transition that Staley's trying to make to this 3-4 scheme. They want more agile athletes in space. And we saw that exposed by the Falcons. And I think that's a big concern this week with the way he's running the ball and the speed they have on the perimeter. But the one thing that Staley is good at, and we've seen it, we saw it against Carolina, he can fool you with some of those disguised coverages. It worked with Alante Taylor making that pick. I think there's going to be a little chess match between him and McDaniel, and maybe they can win a few of them. And that, I think, will go a long way to determine if they can pull off this upset, because I don't know if the offense you can rely on at this point. So maybe they get a few short fields with some turnovers, because Tua will throw picks. I mean, you've documented that, and we've seen it. But that's the only way I think they can win this game, is to get some turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, we still have yet to see the Saints team top 30 points in a game this year. I think, what are they at? In 11 games, 8 of them under 20?
That's
like
on
that.
No, 9 under 20. And their high point was 26 and that was aided by a defensive touchdown.
5 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, they got a return, Jordan Howden return.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that's why I pick them to score 19 every week. It's pretty much what they do. I mean, they're struggling to score points. And look, some of that is groupie struggles that we've talked about. You know,
sure.
They kicked a few more field goals, maybe they get over 20, but that combination has just been rough. The red zone struggles and then the struggles with the kicker.
Anything stick out to you about when Miami has the ball here?
Tua's taken 21 sacks this year. That's, I feel like this is a game where the defensive line really needs to kind of make its hay with the pass rush. Miami's offensive line has kind of struggled for years, even when Teron Armstead was there. It was kind of on his last legs physically. And so I just, like, Chase Young has had a really nice season. Cam Jordan, very close to having those 2 sacks that I predicted from last week. I feel like they really made a nice impact the first half of the Falcons game, and then it kind of quieted as the game went along. And so I just feel like they need to be a little bit better there, and maybe that'll kind of keep things in check. But I don't know. The defensive line, I think this is like a really big game for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a great point. And I think if they don't get after him, I mean, Chase Young, it'd be great to see him have like a breakout game, 3 or 4 sacks or something crazy.
He's on pace for a double-digit sack season. Like, I don't know with how many games left. If he had played, he would have been on pace for, I think, 11 and a half sacks, which not quite ring the bell territory for Rod, but
close
enough to make Rod a believer for another year.
Yeah, look, I think that's an area they can definitely exploit, and maybe get strip sack fumble or something like the things we're talking about. I think they have to get something like that in this kind of game, because I don't think they're just going to come out and shut them down. The way they're running, they're getting confidence right now. They're playing with a lot more confidence, and that's their game, is the speed, and that's an area the Saints are going to continue to address in the offseason, is getting more speed and athletic on defense.
A lot of areas to address in the Saints team this offseason. Yeah. We'll pass up running back to get more speed on the field defensively. Okay, special teams, again, relevant this week. Look, Mason Tipton had a nice return. Didn't result in anything, but 75-yard return, I think, on early in the first quarter against Atlanta. But yeah, the big thing here is the field goal kickers for the Saints. So we're all assuming it's going to be Cade York. They signed him this week after waiving kicker Blake Grupe. Really, really up and down start to Cade York's career after a great career at LSU. And if it's not Cade York, it's going to be Charlie Smith, who's never kicked a field goal in an NFL game. So this has potential, especially if it is a close game, to be something that swings this one way or another.
And I'm just looking at his most recent season, Cade York. Went 5 of 5. Let's see.
Here, Pro Football Reference is really tough for kickers.
He went 9 of 13 last year with 2 different teams, the Commanders and the Bengals. One miss from 50, another miss from 40 to 49. This is great podcasting here. He's just got to be a little bit more consistent. It's for as consistent as he was at LSU, as Jeff mentioned on the last show, he hasn't been able to display that consistency in the NFL. And so they just need some, I don't think he's the type of kicker that now that they have him, it's going to be, all right, let's send him out there for a 55-yarder or 57. I think Kellen Moore is still going to try and play it pretty safe with his decision-making. And I just think this is let's bring him. I think they're bringing him in because it's not a solution. It's just something that they needed to do, rather.
No, yeah, I agree with that. As weird as that sounds, right? They needed to make a change there. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. They were at the point where they really just couldn't trust Blake to go out and make makeable field goals by NFL standards. So something new, even if it's not something necessarily better, is probably the right direction they had to take.
Yeah, and they've got a good kicker in Miami, right? Is it Sanders still? Jason Sanders, I think
so.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a guy in a close game like this could be, the difference in the game. And I think to your point you made on the last pod we had, when it starts affecting your play calling, I mean, as Kellen Moore, I mean, they've got so many issues to deal with. That's the last thing he needs to be dealing with is missing makeable field goals, because it does influence how he calls the game. I mean, when you're within 3 points as opposed to 6 or something, you know, that's going to affect how you're calling the game. And I think it definitely did in that Atlanta game. And he couldn't trust it anymore, and he has to have confidence when he calls on a field goal that's going to be made in that situation. And Blake had just lost that confidence of the team, and you could see it in his body language and in the way he was carrying himself. I mean, he'd lost confidence, and at that point, you got to move on.
And Miami's already benefited from a game this year in which, the last game that they played in before their bye, Matt Gay for Washington missed a potential game winner right at the end. They went into overtime, and the field goal was the difference there for Miami for them to be able to win. So,
and Mariota throwing a pick on the first play of overtime.
Yeah, it matters. I mean, it's right there.
But they're have to be getting. I mean, there was a period of time where I thought McDaniel might be getting fired mid-season. You know, going down the DA route, and I know Greer got fired, but I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that McDaniel's out of the woods yet. I mean, they could be making a change there. So
absolutely,
but they have.
This is a
better.
big game for Miami for that reason. Then.
Right, no doubt about it.
You're losing to 2-9 Saints. It's not a very good ringing endorsement.
But the Saints, I mean, looking at going to Tampa next week, Baker Mayfield looks like he's okay, but we don't know his injury status. Coming off this loss to Atlanta, I mean, this is a game. If you're trying to build momentum, get back on track, you're Tyler Shough, you got to try and get this win, because I think the Tampa games will be tough. You know, they're still fighting with Carolina atop the division, so they're playing with motivation, whereas some of these other teams won't have that. But this Miami game, I think, is definitely personnel-wise somebody the Saints could beat.
All right, let's transition to keys to the game here. Anybody want to start this one off? I have an idea, and it's just like a half-formed idea.
I'll go the obvious in red zone. You just gotta Yeah, well, I don't really go last on these type of things, so I'm jumping first.
On it. Yeah,
taking the most obvious thing.
Don't blame you.
And it's got to be better down there, and you've got to find more creative ways. And I think a key specifically for the red zone and being more successful there is using Taysom Hill less. Pains Luke to hear it, but
Ouch.
I just think they've got to try some other things, because right now the manner of which they're using Taysom Hill is way too predictable. It's not even that they're using it. It's just like the obvious situations of the defense knows what's coming, I think is maybe the problem more than anything else.
Well, they used to know it was coming and still couldn't stop it.
Right.
But now, he's not the same force he was, I think.
Bring back Colin Saunders.
Yeah.
Fullback Colin Saunders.
Colin Saunders agreed with your take on Twitter. I saw.
He did.
All right. Well, I think that's I mean, obviously, like they do need to get better there. Do you want to go, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll dive in, because I think I'm taking
theoretical
something different from you. I personally think Shough's got to have a big game. I mean, I think maybe a breakout game for Tyler Shough. I think you can do it against this Miami defense. They've been definitely vulnerable, and I think he's got one in him. Like I do. Maybe some of those big plays we saw against Carolina, where he was able to hook up with Olave, the big one he had to Juwan Johnson, that was kind of missing in the Falcons game. They need to hit on some big plays. I know that sounds simple, but get the explosive plays back. This is a Miami team. You can do that too, and give some life to this offense, because I don't think it's going to come from the running game. It's going to have to be the big play of his ability, and he does have that ability with his arm. And they do have. I mean, Chris Olave is capable of making those big plays. So let's see if they can get that part of their offense back.
All right, my key to the game is just to muck it up. These are two.
What is that?
That means these are two bad teams. Get into a rock fight with these guys. Lean on the one thing that you have done more consistently well this year. Play good defense and just don't screw it up on offense. They could get out of there with like a 16-13 win, 14-10, something like that. Like at other points of the season,
17-7.
At other points of the season, that would have been like, you want to see more out of this team. But like at this stage, we're 11 games into it. We just talked about the offense. 8 or 9 games under 20 points this year. Just show you can win an ugly game, like a really ugly, gross, dirty game.
Yeah,
I think this is a good week for it.
Feels weird to say that when you're going down to South Beach and one of the more beautiful parts of our country and turn the game ugly.
Yeah, this game is not going to be.
Florida, so.
This game is not. It is in Miami technically, but we're not in South Beach. It's not. The stadium's in like the
Miami Gardens, I think. Yeah.
The less interesting part of town. So
true. It's a pretty stadium though.
We can muck it up.
It's pretty sim. I think Dolphins have great uniforms. Want to talk about that?
They do.
Not the current set.
Oh,
You don't
I
like
the
them? I like
current
them.
set.
God,
yeah.
no. Clip art Dolphin, like
Yeah, I like it.
it's with like the bad teal and orange. Like,
No, I love it.
I think they're
God,
good.
of course you guys.
Yeah,
would.
distinctive looking uniform.
Who's
But
the
again,
most stylish person up here? Who would know the answer? It's me. They need to ditch this crap that they're wearing and go back to the like 80s, 90s ones they had with Dan Marino. Those
I
are
think you've said
way
that about
better.
every team this year.
And I'm right.
he's retro.
It's my
well, the
youth.
Saints are 0-6 in those all blacks, I think, aren't they?
Well,
Black helmet.
last week was the first time they wore the black helmet with the all blacks.
All right, so they're 0-6 just to the black helmets, I think. They
Yeah.
need to ditch those.
I agree.
Although I do like the theory of the black helmet, and but not those black helmets.
I can't believe you guys are into these Dolphins uniforms.
Yeah.
They suck.
We're smart.
They suck. They're the ones the throwbacks are easily the best ones. All right, let's get into predictions. Look, I'm going to apologize for butchering your username here because I have no idea how you pronounce this. Either it's MyThroppy73 or Mythroppy73 or maybe something completely different. You had the correct or the closest to correct prediction for last week's Falcons Saints game. Congrats. You get 10 Saints Insider Bucks, which is a totally theoretical made up money that you can't spend anywhere, but you do get to have it in your pocket, theoretically. So congratulations to you. Others of you watching have some predictions for the Saints Dolphins game. Please get them in before the buzzer. We will be looking and congratulating you with maybe we'll throw out 15 Saints Insider Bucks next week. At some point, Dunk's going to send a book out to one of these winners.
Yeah, look, I think we need to make sure they're not posting their
that's
score.
on Zach Ewing. That's on Zach Ewing. He's got to look it up before the game starts. Write it all down, keep it in the database.
I'm interested to see this week's picks. If anybody picks the Saints after they laid an egg last week.
Let's get to that.
Okay.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We all picked the Saints to beat the Falcons last week.
Kiss of death.
Should have known.
I thought, didn't Zach pick the Falcons?
Nope. We all picked the Saints to beat the Falcons last week.
No.
Bunch,
He picked them to beat the Panthers, and we all picked against the Saints against the Panthers.
That's
what it
right.
was.
bunch of idiots up here predicting games. So let's
the
see if we can
commenters would
get
agree.
it right this week. Let's see if we can not have consensus. First up, we're going to do Rod Walker and Zach Ewing's picks. Both of them are out today. Rod picked the Dolphins to win 24-13, and Zach picked the Dolphins to win 24-19. Matt, how about you?
I went a little bit lower scoring in this one, 16-10.
A little bit lower that's a lot lower. You got 26. If the over-under was 27, you'd be under still.
Well, yeah, it's just more of a rock fight. The game against the Commanders was a rock fight. These guys muck it up.
Miami's following the keys to the game.
Yeah, exactly. I think New Orleans defense has improved where they can keep teams in that kind of range, and the offense. I just think it's going to be another tough sledding.
All right, so there you go. Matt has 16-10. We'll go with me next. I picked 23-14 Miami. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a fun or exciting game. We could be wrong. Maybe Tyler Shough can rediscover some of his Carolina form. Again, I agree with you. I thought he wasn't really that bad despite their offense scoring 3 total points last week. I thought they could have helped him out a little bit more between the 20s. Thought still pretty decent. But I'm at the point where I need to see it at some point before I really believe in the Saints team to get it done.
I think at this point, they just don't even try in the red zone. Like, just start throwing Hail Mary bombs like when they get on the 30 or 40.
Just get a bunch of 30-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, just don't get down
False
there.
start consecutive to back out of the red zone.
There you go.
All right, so I went 2019 Miami, sticking with my 19-point theme with the Saints, and 1-point loss. I think this game could be kind of weird, though. I think it could be kind of a weird game. I think some crazy stuff could happen.
Absolutely could be a weird game.
Yeah.
And by the way, we all 5 of us picked the Dolphins to win. This is absolutely 100% a game the Saints could win.
Yep.
This is one that we saw as winnable, like when the season first came out. I think we're all maybe a little bit prisoners in the moment, just like we were last week. But I do think that this is a game the Saints could definitely win.
Yeah, the Dolphins are coming off a bye. We've seen what happens when a team comes off a bye and lays an egg. So.
Yeah. All those self-scout questions for Mike McDaniel this week. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Again, this is like one of those winnable games down the stretch for the Saints to see if they can build some positive momentum. It's hard to believe after last week's game against the Atlanta Falcons, but anything can happen in the end.
And here's the other thing. I mean, we're looking down the road here, but like they lost to Atlanta, they lose to Miami, and then lose again to Tampa, which is a probability. You come back here to New Orleans at 2-11 right before Christmas and play the New York Jets. There might be tumbleweeds in the Superdome if that happens. There might not be anybody. We might be the only ones there. That game could be bad. So
COVID
they need to
throwback.
win to get a little juice.
Yeah.
Thinking down the road there.
It was the last time they played the Miami Dolphins. I think it was a COVID game, and
remember that game?
Like
oh God,
90% of the Saints roster was at home watching.
Was it the Ian Book game?
That was the Ian Book game.
Yeah. And there might be more people in the dome in that game than there will be for this Jets game if they're 2-11.
All right. That has
Merry
been
Christmas.
our holiday version of the Saints Insider podcast. We hope you all had a great Thanksgiving with your family. I hope you are staying awake at work today if you are working instead of falling into a turkey coma. We appreciate you all for listening. If you like our show, give it a thumbs up on Spotify, on YouTube. Send it to your friends. We appreciate you all for listening. I've been Luke Johnson, joined by Matthew Paris and Jeff Duncan, and our producer, Molly Bellinger. We appreciate you all for listening, and we will be back. We will be back Sunday with a post-game show, hopefully, this week. Hopefully we can get that done. And we appreciate you all for listening. Thank you very much.